You're not lazy, my love, you are dysregulated. In today's podcast episode, I'm going to be diving into why procrastination, overthinking, over-explaining, over-giving, and putting off the things that you know are good for you and your business has absolutely nothing to do with being lazy and everything to do with the health and state of your nervous system. So, without further ado, let's dive in. So, welcome back, my darlings, to the Lucy Superfox Show. This week, I want to talk about something that comes up so much inside my practice. So for a lot of my clients, they are highly sensitive, neurospicy, but they are also massively and radically ambitious. And that ambition is beautiful, except that when ambition is not built on a foundation of regulation, when it's built on a foundation of need to perform, need to prove, need to control, need people to see you a certain way, need to get a certain result, what that often does is mean that ambition ends up feeling like pressure. Now, nothing good ever was built from pressure, and you could say, yeah, but diamonds were built from pressure, but diamonds are crushed under the weight of what they go through and eventually turn out right. We don't want to be crushed. We don't want to end up in burnout 17 times just to get to the income level that we want to get to. We want to reach that place in our corporate career or as an entrepreneur with joy, with passion, with purpose, with peace, right? And I'm sure that if you're watching this, you're probably agreeing, or you wouldn't be here. Now, if you're anything like me, you grew up with the narrative that hard work creates success. And so I went on through my life to become a high performer, getting good grades, constantly overachieving, in the view that then I would be successful. And compounded with growing up as a lower middle class human who was experienced both having no money and having a lot of money in my teen years, what I realized was I wanted a life with money. And so I equated hard work and graft to wealth, because to me, wealth meant freedom. But the ironic thing about that is that hard work and graft and sacrifice and struggle and performance have absolutely no correlation with wealth, but that's not what the hustle culture narrative, what the personal development world, or what good girl conditioning teaches you. So what happens for so many amazing entrepreneurs who have a beautiful business idea, who are incredibly warm, deeply highly sensitive, probably neurospicy, is that what happens is you fall in love with an idea and it starts with something you're passionate about. It starts with something that you love to do, and then it turns into this thing that has to create results, that has to pay your bills, that has to, and it ends up being something that you crumble under the pressure of, and then you'll go round in a circle believing that you're lazy, you're wrong, you failed, or you just won't get the results that you were hoping for. And it's because when we take something that we love and that idea and something we're passionate about and try to put it into a system and a structure, that one is simply absolutely bullshit, and two, that just does not work for highly sensitive neurospicy individuals. So what can happen is then we then start to tell stories that we're lazy, that we're not good enough, that we procrastinate, there's something wrong with us, we should be able to do this, we should be further along by now, and all of those are just stories. They are bullshit stories built on two core beliefs. And these two core beliefs that show up all the time inside my practice are, I need to struggle, and it's not safe to relax. And both of those unconscious core beliefs show up time and time and time again in your business. They'll show up in overachieving. They'll show up in wanting to keep going and going and going and going. But then what happens is we'll burn ourselves out, right? And whether that's simply on a daily basis where we work that extra 30 minutes, whether it's overextending ourselves and replying to messages late at night and we know we need to be winding down, or whether actually it goes on for months and months and months and months, and at some point you go through a chronic health crisis. The body will always give you the feedback. It's just whether or not you're willing to listen. And so what can happen is this conditioning shows up in business so much for neurospicy, highly sensitive humans that they then start to tell these stories that they're lazy, that they're not good enough, that they're not worthy, that they're not capable. And then what happens is they start outsourcing their power. They start outsourcing their power to systems and structures and another strategy. They start outsourcing their power to the Instagram algorithm. They start outsourcing their power to people around them who say they should do this, or they should go left, or they should go right. And every single time that then adds layers on that feeling of doubt, that feeling of laziness, that feeling of I'm not good enough. But at the root of all of that, right, because your business is the most manifested 3D expression of your unconscious beliefs about yourself, right? So if you believe that you have to work hard, if you believe that you have to perform, if you believe that you have to be liked, if you believe that it's not safe to relax, if you believe you have to struggle on an unconscious level, that is the reality that will show up inside your business, whether you like it or not. Because we are 95% programmed, which means that you can want and desire and have big goals and dreams and have things that you want to work towards. And desire is a powerful mover. But if underneath all of that, you're holding these core beliefs, those core beliefs are what's running the show. And so, which brings me to my very powerful point. You are not lazy, but you are right now being run by unconscious patterns and unconscious programs that make it unsafe to have the business and life that you desire. And that is why you're not moving towards them. That's why you're not taking the action steps. So this isn't about your work ethic, your effort, your willingness, right? It's not about any of that. It's about your body's response, unconscious response to saying, I can't do that. I'm not good enough. That's not safe. We won't get results. Look what happened the last time we did that. Because every single time your body will do everything in its power to keep you safe, to keep things predictable, to keep things familiar, so that it feels like it can control what happens in your life. And that's because so many highly sensitive, neurospicy women need to be in control to feel safe. But I will tell you, some of the best shit that's happened in my business, the most amazing shit that's happened in my life, has never come from when I'm in control. It's always come from when I'm open, I'm expansive, I'm curious, I'm connected, right? And all of that is symbolic of a nervous system state called regulation, a nervous system state called safety, a nervous system place where our nervous system feels like it is currently safe. So when we are ever in anything other than connected, calm, curious, compassionate, we are not in a place of a regulated state, and we are building our business from a dysregulated state. So when you're building your business from pressure, from hustle, from force, from manipulation, from control, from avoidance of something, the avoidance of being broke, the avoidance of what people think of you, the having something to prove, needing to perform, trying to outrun your unconscious beliefs, habits, and behaviors, you are building from a dysregulated state. Now, if you get results, that's even worse, because what then happens is you then teach yourself that rewards come from those sacrificing behaviors. And then we start to cement in more unconscious beliefs that success equals sacrifice, that hard work gets results. And this is where we then become a self-fulfilling prophecy, whether we like it or not. And this is where you can love the ideas, some of the ideas I talk about, right? Like alignment and ease and success without sacrifice. You can like them, but they won't be safe for you until you, on an unconscious level, can shift the narrative, shift the beliefs, and shift the behaviors, right? This is why people work with me one-to-one, for this exact reason. So what can happen is we end up in this place where we're building a burnout business. You're actually building a business that is destined for fucking burnout because you're building it from a place of dysregulation. And it's why when a lot of women come out of corporate and come straight into entrepreneurship, and I did this, and look, is it a rite of passage? Do you have to do it? Absolutely fucking not. Is it useful when you have and you come out the other side? Sure. But what can happen is if this is your first iteration of business out of corporate that burns you out, that exhausts you, where you overgive, overexpend, and then off the back of that, you don't fucking learn your lesson, 6 months of rest or 6 months of taking freelance work or whatever the thing is that allows you to have a break won't fucking change anything because you'll be the same version of you going back into business number 2. And this is what happened to me. But business number 3 for me, and really they're all iterations of each other, right? I always say I've scaled 3 6-figure businesses because they're with 3 different disciplines, 3 different skill sets, 3 different actual job titles, if you like. So the first was nutritionist and transformation coach. The second was as a leader in a network marketing business. And the third now as a therapist. They have all been completely different versions of me. And although these 2 were actually different companies as well in terms of limited companies, what that's been so beautiful about is this version of my business has not required burnout, has not required busyness, has not required struggle, has not required sacrifice, has not required hard work, has not required consistency, has not required willpower, and has not required discipline. This current version of my business, wildly successful, wildly fulfilling, like wildly full of dream clients. Even my social media algorithm has completely changed, right? In terms of my responses, my interaction, the type of content that I share, all of it. Everything has moved into an energy of alignment because I moved into an energy of alignment. I moved into a place of safety. Me, right? Because your business is your greatest 3D manifested expression of who you are. And so when we try to change the strategy, the behavior, the action, right? We try to believe that we're lazy and we're the problem. You fucking are. But when we try to change the outside action, the outside behavior, the outside results, that's manipulation, honey, not manifestation. So the work is about becoming the woman who can hold the business, who has the identity where ease and alignment and success without sacrifice are normal. It's becoming the version of me that made it safe for people to leave me positive comments on Instagram as much as it was for them to leave me fucking shitty ones. And I get it, right? It was becoming the woman who could receive money from unexpected places and didn't need to control where it came from. It was becoming the woman who felt safe to take days off on a Tuesday, even though she used to work fucking 9 to 9 every single day. It was becoming the woman who was willing to receive, it sounds nice in theory, willing to receive payment emails in the middle of the night from another country, whilst also not needing to control where all of that came from and how that happened. It was the woman who didn't need to know the metrics of each part of her business in order to know that she could be wildly fucking successful. It wasn't the woman who needed the conversion rates. I don't need conversion rates to know that when I meet somebody who's an aligned client, I give them the option to work with me, yes or no, if I feel they're right. And I know they'll always make the right decision for them. And that's for their highest good and for mine. And that's not a nice ethereal spiritual concept for me. That's a fucking core belief. And so when you become the woman who genuinely believes that she is worthy of, that it's safe to have, that she deeply knows and resonates that success without sacrifice is not only possible, it is inevitable for her because that's who she is, that's when the game fucking changes. And this is why you're not lazy. This is not about your work ethic. This is not about your willpower. It's not about discipline, whether it's to do with food, money, body, or business. And this is about the person that you unconsciously are, who you are at your core. Because until that changes, everything on the outside of your life will stay and repeat. And this is why, particularly right now, if you are building a business, you have a business, you are an entrepreneur of some sort, whether it's a side hustle or your full-time gig, I have made a completely free tool called the Aligned Business Audit. It's a short workshop and a downloadable worksheet for you to work through to actually ask yourself these 7 questions that every entrepreneur needs to ask themselves to question and challenge and check and align whether they are building a business that's aligned with their highest good, aligned with their biggest vision, aligned with the results of ease and success without sacrifice, or whether they are building themselves a burnout business. So if you want to take my Aligned Business Audit, you can find the link in the show notes below, and if you're watching on social media, you can comment audit on this video and I will send you the link straight to your inbox. Inside this audit, I'm going to walk you through why each of these questions matters, how this has been developed, and ultimately what the results tell you about where you're at in your business journey and what needs to shift, change, and rearrange. So remember, my friends, you are not lazy, you are simply dysregulated, and building a business from an identity and a version of you that needed struggle, that needed sacrifice, needed to perform, needed to prove, needed to please. And if you want to build a business that has success without sacrifice, if you want to build a version of your life that does not require struggle, then that has to become safe to who you are at your core. And so this is where the Aligned Business Audit is going to help you break down where you're at in that journey, where you're at in that process, and to know which way you're headed. So don't forget, if you want to get the Aligned Business Audit, you can comment audit on this video, or you can find the link in the show notes below. So I hope you love this episode. The next few episodes are going to be talking more about burnout. We're going to be talking about particularly why highly sensitive and neurospicy entrepreneurs need to build their business in a certain way. And we are going to be diving into some of the common mistakes that business owners make that I have made in my past, and to hopefully share my hindsight as your foresight as you build an aligned business in this next season of your life. So my loves, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you on the next episode.